Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to talk about a topic that I feel like has been kind of like taking over my life for the last couple weeks, and that is basically like a little recap on how we got my son sleep trained. He's actually taking a nap right now. Even like naps have been going so much easier. Everything is going so much better. Like sleep across the board is just going so much easier since we started doing this. And I did do a ton of vlogging. Like I basically documented the entire process, like kind of from the very beginning of like before we even really decided what we wanted to do to sleep train him in terms of like a method and things like that. So I have all of that documented in like a whole little kind of mini series. So I will have that linked down in the description box for y'all if you want to see like the actual like real live footage as we went along and our experience and how it went and like the decision making and all of that kind of stuff. I will have that linked for y'all. This is going to be kind of just like a recap overview because I know if you are like considering sleep training, it's like a whole thing and it's kind of daunting. There's obviously a bunch of different methods and just the idea of jumping into that and knowing you're going to have some probably pretty rough nights and rough mornings. Like it's a scary thing to even approach, and it's hard to know when the right time to do it is, and there's just so many factors that I feel like you need to take into account, whether you as the parent are ready to do sleep training and whether your baby's ready for sleep training and whether you even want to do sleep training at all. That is why I wanted to make this video and kind of share with y'all our experience, what worked for us, what didn't work, what our experience was, all of that stuff. So if y'all want to hear how we got our son sleeping through the night in like less than a week, then just keep watching. So yes, we had some seriously bad sleep habits going on, and it was like so accidental. We were trying to be so careful not to make bad sleep habits, but we did. And then we started sleep training, and literally within a week he was sleeping through the entire night. And I know that sounds crazy. Like if you would have told me the day we started or the day before we started, like you will have a baby that sleeps through the night in 1 week from today, I would have been like, you're full of it. Like there's no freaking way my baby, as perfect as he is, there's no way that my baby will sleep through the night anytime soon, let alone in a week. Like I wouldn't have believed it, but it is entirely possible. But I talked to so many of y'all, like people that I know personally and on Instagram, and everyone has had such success with this method that we've used. It seems like it has just about 100% success rating. It's insane that it worked. And like not only is our night sleep so much better, but naps are going better. Like honestly, just kind of life in general is so much better ever since we did this. Like we're getting more sleep. He's getting the amount of sleep that like he ought to get for his age, and it's a better household because of it. So I definitely wanted to share everything with y'all. I literally have our clipboard here with like our big packet of information and our charts. I'm obviously not gonna go like too in detail or like give you like a play-by-play of every single night because this video would be 6.5 hours long. But I will just kind of share with y'all like what method we used and kind of like how we progressed from where we started to where we ended up, which is a much better place. So I'm gonna just start off by saying we started sleep training by moving him into his own crib like throughout the night. He was always napping in his crib. We started him napping in his crib, honestly, like pretty young. I would say like, I think it was like 6 weeks or something like that. We started having him nap in his own crib. So I think that really helped make the transition into the crib like full time at night a lot easier. So it's definitely a tip that I would recommend because honestly, he was outgrowing his bassinet. He's just about 5 months and he's over 20 pounds. So he was outgrowing the bassinet very quickly. And as much as I didn't want to kick him out of here, I knew it was time. He was definitely cramped. And honestly, he was waking up so much that it wasn't working out to have him sleep in here anymore. But I will go more into kind of like what the issues were and why we started sleep training. But I think first and foremost, it's important if you're going to start sleep training to have them do it in their own room, in their crib, like where they're going to basically be kind of from now on, like their more permanent place, rather than sleep training them in the bassinet where they might not be for very much longer. Unless you have like the crib in your room, then of course that would make sense. So we moved him out of our room into his own room, into his crib, and he's been loving it. But I feel like you cannot, I mean, you obviously can't really have a baby in their crib at all, but you definitely can't sleep train without a baby monitor. I feel like that's honestly one of the biggest keys to this whole thing, was having a way to of course monitor him, keep an eye on him, see if he was waking up, when he was waking up, what the temperature in his room was, like all those things that you can't do without one. And so that actually brings me to today's sponsor, which is xoxo. I am so excited to be working with them. They have one of the coolest baby monitors that I feel like I have seen, and they're available on Amazon, which I feel like automatically makes them so much better in my book because they're available on Prime and super accessible. But they have such a cool monitor system. I am so excited to share this with y'all. When I realized like all the different features and functions that this has, I was like shocked that there was like a system that even did all the things that this one does. Plus it's just really nice looking, and it's really high quality, and it's also like a really good price point for what it is. This is what the actual monitor itself looks like. Really big screen, and also just very like sleek and just nice looking. Like if you just have this kind of sitting out on your coffee table or your bedside table or anything, like it just looks really nice. It does have a little kickstand so you can rest it, and they actually have a bunch of different cameras, which I thought was a really cool feature. I've honestly never seen cameras that come in like different prints, but obviously we have a son, so this is the camera that we got. It's really cute. It's like blue and has all kinds of different designs on it, but they also have just plain white ones if you want to keep it kind of simple and neutral, which is this one. When you buy the actual monitor, it does come with a camera, but they do sell extra cameras just individually, which is so nice. So if you want to have like multiple in their room, like one on the crib and then one, you know, maybe on a dresser or something, that kind of like shows the rest of the room. So if you have a slightly older baby, or if you like just let them kind of play in there, you can actually have another monitor set up so that you have one that focuses like just on the crib and then one that shows the rest of the room. But also if you have another baby, you can get a second monitor and you can actually hook them all up, and this monitor can show you as many as 4 different like camera views. You can actually watch both of them, or all 3 or all 4 of them, depending on how many kids you have and how many you're monitoring. You can watch them all on the one monitor, which I think is so cool. So this box has the white one, this is the one that we have, and then they also have a cute pink one. So I love the fact that we could have like all of our kids napping at the same time or down for bed and just watch them on one monitor rather than having to like carry around a bunch of them. But you can also control the camera from the actual monitors. So as you can see, the camera obviously kind of like rotates and you can get like the perfect view you need. But while you have the camera on, you can use these little like buttons on the monitor to move the camera in case they're moving around in their crib or moving around in the room. You can stay wherever you are, but if they're moving around, you can literally just move the camera view. You don't have to like get up and go check on them. And then you can also use this monitor to like zoom in and out. Again, if you just like want to check on them, if they're a little bit far from the camera at the moment, you can zoom in and out with this, which is a great feature. And it has a really good night vision, which is obviously what's really important for us because he sleeps in his room with like the blackout curtains drawn, whether it's night or daytime. So it's pretty much always really dark in his room. And you can also talk with this. There's this little button right here. It's a 2-way talk function. And like I mentioned earlier, the temperature monitoring is huge for us. We have him sleep in like little sleep sacks. Obviously we set the house temperature to something, but we can't always know exactly what the temperature in his room is. So I love that this shows you the temperature, and it actually has alarms like on this monitor, which is one of the coolest things. So if like the temperature goes outside the range that you set, the monitor will like alert you and tell you that the temperature is changing. And the other thing that I think is insane about this is you can actually play like lullabies and white noise through the camera and also through the monitor itself, which I think is so cool. Cole definitely needs white noise to sleep with. This kind of is like a multi-function tool. This does so much, way more than you would think a baby monitor would ever do. And one of the things I love the most about this monitor, it doesn't use Wi-Fi, which I think is great. So if your internet goes out, you don't have to worry about like not being able to let your baby sleep in the crib. The fact that it works independently of the internet, I feel like that just gives me peace of mind. So pretty much across the board, this is just such a handy product to have. It literally does everything that you would need a monitor to do. It makes sleep training like possible, but also just kind of gives me a peace of mind knowing like at night when he's not in the room with me anymore, I don't have to worry about like him crying and needing me and me not knowing about it. And of course, during the whole sleep training process, being able to see like when exactly does he fall asleep, they wouldn't be possible without a really good baby monitor. And because of all the different features that this has, I feel like this is a product we will be using from right now when he's an infant, like all the way until he's a toddler. So of course I will have this linked down below. I will have like the full set with the monitor and the camera, and then also I will have a link for the separate cameras in case you want to get a couple, if you have multiple kids or you kind of want some different views. I will have everything linked down below, and of course it is available on Amazon. And without further ado, let me tell y'all the tips and tricks that we use to get our baby sleeping through the night. So like I said, I have our clipboard with our whole like tracking system here so that I can make sure I give y'all like the actual information of like what went down. So before I get into like what we actually use, I feel like I should tell y'all why we decided to sleep train and like what the specific kind of like issues we were having that caused us to decide like now was the time. And I just really don't want anyone to be offended if y'all do these things or your kid does these things. Like this is not any offense to you if you choose to not sleep train or you co-sleep or whatever. I think more power to you. Like whatever works for your family, I think is wonderful. This is just what worked for us. The issues that we felt we needed to correct, whatever makes you and your baby happy, I think you should do. So firstly, like I was saying, Cole just kind of needed to move into his own room. He was waking up literally like 6 times a night. Like between 4 and 6 times a night. I would nurse him for a lot of those just to kind of like get him back down. Sometimes when he would wake up, he'd be up for like an hour and a half in the middle of the night at like 2 in the morning for absolutely no reason. I was nursing him to sleep, which in itself is not inherently like a bad thing. I know a lot of people do that, and honestly I loved doing that, but I felt like that was kind of hindering his ability to fall asleep on his own. Like, he basically couldn't fall asleep without nursing or being rocked to sleep. He was eating a ton throughout the night, and like I said, he was like 20 pounds at 4 months old, so he was big enough to not need to eat like all the time throughout the night. And he was taking terrible naps. Like, he, starting at like 6 weeks, he would only nap for half an hour, like ever. He really never took naps longer than half an hour. So we knew there were just kind of like sleep crutches and like kind of accidental parenting that was happening that we really wanted to break, so that he was able to fall asleep on his own and connect sleep cycles so that his naps weren't only half an hour. We just knew basically that he had to start napping longer, he needed to fall asleep on his own, and he needed to not eat so often at night. Like, we need to do some night weaning. So those were kind of like the things that we were like, okay, we need to fix these problems before they become just like so habitual that it gets even harder to break them. So even though it was really, really hard, we moved him out of our room. I was a hot mess like the whole day before and that whole night, knowing it was like his last night in our room, and he's our first child, so it was the first time I've ever really experienced like that true sense of your baby like growing up. And again, even though he's not even 5 months old yet, it just felt like a real step. He's getting older. He's like not, you know, a little tiny newborn baby anymore. I was kind of a hot mess the whole day and night. Honestly, once we did it, it went very, very smoothly. And I think specifically because he had been napping in there for so long, and we kind of got our room back, and like we broke down the bassinet, and it honestly worked out really well for everyone. So we started using the Taking Care of Babies program, which she is on Instagram. Obviously, she has a whole program. She has a whole website, so I will link her down below. This is obviously not sponsored by her or anything. She does not know who I am, but her program seriously seems to work for everyone. I'll be shocked if y'all haven't heard about her. I feel like she's like the name that everyone knows about when you talk about sleep training. I have like my best friend, her friends, so many of y'all on Instagram, like everyone told me when they used her program, it literally worked wonders. Like for us, he slept through the night at night 7, so it was exactly 1 week until he slept through the night for the first time, and he's been sleeping through the night basically ever since. I feel like once he learned it, he just like learned it, and he's kept doing it. Obviously, like it's not perfect. Like there have been nights where he like wakes up for a second and he's up for like 5 minutes with like a little bit of fussing. I feel like that's inevitable with babies. Like they're gonna sometimes wake up whether they need you or not, and sometimes like he will just kind of like whimper a little bit or kind of reposition himself, but then he goes right back to sleep in no time. So we really haven't had any like long stretches of crying and having to be up with him ever since he started sleeping through the night. We have all been getting a ton of sleep. Honestly, it's like almost too much sleep. Like I don't even know what to do with myself, like being able to go to bed and know that like I can sleep more or less uninterrupted the whole night through. Like at first I was honestly waking up like every couple of hours, I think just because my body was used to it, and obviously also just kind of like that natural like slight nervousness or anxiety that you have when like your baby's not, you know, a couple feet from you in the bassinet anymore. And actually that first night that he did sleep through the night, I literally woke up at like 4 in the morning and realized that like he hadn't woken me up yet. So I literally went in the room, like into his room, and like just checked on him to like make sure everything was okay in there, which of course it was. He sleeps so soundly now, it's insane. Like he hadn't moved out of the position he was in last I saw him when I went to bed. Honestly, one of the things that was kind of huge during this whole process, which there was a lot that happened while we were sleep training, which was part of the reason why I was almost worried it like wasn't gonna work for us, because we had daylight savings. He broke 2 teeth, like 2 teeth have emerged from his gums. He learned how to roll over to sleep on his belly. There was like a lot of physical and developmental stuff going on with him, all while we were trying to do this whole sleep training process. But even through all of that, this still worked. And honestly, him learning to roll over was again very nerve-wracking for me. He like learned it, I think it was like the first or second night that he was in his crib. I think it's because he wasn't so crammed like he was in the bassinet, and he was able to like actually move around. He learned how to flip over. Literally like the first or second night I put him in the crib, he flipped over, and I was like, what just happened? Because he had never done that, like even during like tummy time on the floor, like during the day, he had never flipped over from his back to his belly, only belly to back. So when he did that, I like flipped him over because I was like, dude, you don't know what you're doing, what's going on? But then he like kept doing it all throughout the night, and now he just like sleeps on his belly, and he's a belly sleeper. And at first, obviously, I was a little bit nervous about that, but again, he's like over 20 pounds, so he's very strong, and obviously they say if they can get themselves onto their bellies, then they can get themselves off of it, and it's totally fine to leave them like that. But it was just kind of crazy to see him him learn it, and then the second he did it the first time, he just kept doing it. Obviously, as much as back is definitely best for babies, I think Cole sleeps so much better on his stomach. He just seems to really prefer that. So I think the sleep training coupled with like all the extra room he has in his crib and the ability to sleep on his belly has been huge for him. I think he's just so much more comfortable. So despite all of that going on and all the changes that were happening, we still had so much success with this program. It's kind of more or less a modified Ferber method. It definitely involves a little bit of crying. I feel like even like saying cry it out is like very taboo, and it's like, don't do cry it out, don't do cry it out. They're gonna feel abandoned. It's gonna ruin your relationship and your bond and all of that. But actually taking care of babies, her whole method goes into like a lot of the science of how that's not true, doing it the way that it's done in here, which is really just like a controlled cry. You kind of just let them cry for little like increments of time, and then always go check on them so that they know, you know, it's okay to cry. You can figure this out on your own, but also like, don't worry, I'm still here. I'm with you. Like, you're not going through this alone. Like, we're doing this whole sleep training thing together. And I think just like not kind of like jumping on them the second that they seem like a little uncomfortable kind of like gives them the actual opportunity to say, okay, this is weird. I'm kind of annoyed and frustrated. How do I like work this out myself, rather than kind of like relying on someone to touch me or hold me or pick me up or help me get through this. And I think that's kind of a critical skill for babies. That's what we really wanted to teach him. We honestly were like blaming a lot of his like night waking and just his poor naps and everything to his 4-month sleep regression, but you can only blame that for so long, I feel like. And after like 6 or 7 weeks, we were like, okay, this is not a growth spurt, this is not a leap, this is not a sleep regression, like this is just Cole. He's not a great sleeper, and we definitely take a little bit of the blame for him being a poor sleeper. So that's what this method really does. You kind of just let them cry for a little bit of time and then check in and let them cry for a little bit of time. And the first night, I will definitely say, was rough. I think we had like 108 minutes of crying the first night. Mind you, again, this is not just like uncontrolled, like he's just laying in his crib wailing for 108 minutes straight. It is not that. There's a lot of check-ins, and that's also cumulative over the whole night, like basically from 7 to 7. So, you know, he would cry a little bit, we'd pop in, we'd like soothe him, and then eventually he'd fall asleep, and then he'd wake up a couple hours later and kind of do the process again. And we were also night weaning one of his night feedings at the same time, which her program does go into how to do that, which I was so thankful that this addressed that, because I was kind of worried about that, and I didn't know if you could really like do sleep training and night weaning at the same time. But you totally can. You can technically do sleep training, night weaning, and nap training all at the same time. However, we chose to kind of like separate, which is actually what she recommends, especially because like for babies, sleep begets sleep. So the fact that he's like sleeping better at night and sleeping more at night has already made naps go so much smoother and so much easier and so much longer. And we haven't even like started the nap training yet. So the first night we definitely had quite a bit of crying, but honestly the crying went down so drastically, so quickly. Like I said, the first night he cried for 108 minutes, and then the next night it went down to 53, and then the next night 27. So it basically got like cut in half every single night. And honestly, by the second night, he didn't even cry. Like the first night when I put him in the crib and just like walked out without rocking him, he was obviously like a hot mess. He was so confused and so frustrated. And obviously that's what their crying means. Their crying is not them being like mad at you or blaming you. They're obviously not hurt. They're just like kind of confused and frustrated. Like, this is not how we do things. Like, I don't know what's going on. So when you kind of like think of it like that, obviously like it sucks to hear your baby cry, and it's like so hard, but kind of framing it that way, knowing like, you know, they're totally fine. They're just kind of trying to like process their emotions. It kind of makes it a little bit easier to get through like when you're in the thick of it. But y'all, I put him down the very first night, and of course he cried for quite a bit. He cried for like 23 minutes. By the second night, I literally put him down, and he just kind of like hung out in the crib for a while, like just sort of laid there, flipped over, did his thing, but he never cried the first night after I put him down. He did like wake up and cry throughout the night, which is how we got to 53 minutes, but he like went in the crib and passed out all by himself without a peep the second night. When that happened, and I have a whole vlog like showing my reaction, it was wild. And like I said, he slept through the night for the first time within the first week. We honestly started getting down to like very few wake ups. Like the night before that, he only woke up once, and that was at like 5:30 in the morning. So that was a really long stretch to go from like 7 to 5:30. So it was definitely like very clear, and that's why these charts are so wonderful, because you can see like, okay, like now we're 4 or 5 nights in. Now he's only waking up once. Oh, last night he cried for 20 minutes. Wow. Last night he cried for only 5 minutes. Like literally by night 6, he only cried for 5 minutes total the whole night long, and only woke up once. And then by night 7, he slept through the whole entire night. And then he slept through the night the next night, and the next night. It's honestly crazy just to like see it in black and white and be able to track your progress. Like obviously you can tell things are getting better when you're sleeping more and all of those things, but having it kind of like written down and being able to see like how much less crying there is, how much more sleep there is. Like we've been keeping track of how long he's been in his crib, how long he's been asleep. It is just crazy to see like when you actually have it documented, the progress that you and your baby are making. And it has made us so so stinking proud of him. Like every single night that he's done even just a little bit better, we're like, buddy, like you're doing it, like you're learning these skills. It makes you such a proud parent knowing like what we did, even though it was hard, it worked and it was so worth it. And now he has these skills that he needs to just be like a better sleeper across the board. We have what we need, which is a little bit more sleep to, of course, be better parents for him. And he's just a happier baby having more rest. Like babies want to sleep, even if they're not a good sleeper, like they want to sleep, they want the rest. They obviously need that for growth and development and all of those things. Babies want to sleep, they're just like not always good at it naturally. So I feel like being able to kind of like help them through it and like see them really learn the skills and like crush it, it's just such a cool proud parent moment. And it's just so good for everyone across the board, like having more sleep and knowing that your baby can like rely on themselves to soothe themselves in the middle of the night. Like they don't need you for that, which maybe in itself is a little bit sad. And there's obviously something to being able to soothe your baby, whether it's through nursing or holding them. And of course there's going to be nights that are a little bit rougher than others, even once they have learned these skills. And of course if they're sick or anything like that, like kind of all of this kind of goes out the window. Like kind of all bets are off when your baby's sick. So this of course doesn't like fix forever and ever and ever. Your baby will never wake up in the middle of the night. Like they're still a baby and they will be a toddler and these things will happen. But the fact that he has these skills now to be able to continue sleeping, connect his sleep cycles, all of those things is just so huge and just such an invaluable skill to give them. And honestly, it only took a week. Like I feel like so many people are just kind of scared of the idea of sleep training, or it's just intimidating, or they just don't want to have like really long nights. Like trust us, we didn't want that either. Like if someone told you that you could just have a couple rough nights, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to like maybe 2 weeks of like kind of rough, or honestly not even that rough, like waking up once or twice, especially compared to how many times he was waking up, it just was so much smoother than we ever expected. Like especially compared to what we were doing before. The way we looked at it was we're already not sleeping, so this can't really hurt, right? Like if we're already waking up a ton during the night just because he doesn't sleep or he wants to eat or whatever, at least now we're not sleeping like with a purpose. And at least now we're getting woken up with a purpose. Like at least now during all these wakings and these rough long nights, we're working towards fixing them rather than just doing it and doing it and doing it without there being like an end in sight. So for us, that's what kind of like made it so doable. We kind of had this like mental framework that this is something that's going to be a little bit tough, like pulling a band-aid off, but it's going to like lead us to something really amazing on the other side. It's just so worth it. Like the fact that it works and it works fairly quickly, I would venture to bet that for most people this goes smoother than they think. Like even for us, even though that first night was hard and we were up a lot, it's still honestly, like I even said in the vlog, it was still an easier night than I expected. And frankly, it was probably similar in terms of the number of wakings to like a normal night before we started sleep training. There was just a little bit more crying going on than normal. So for example, like last night he slept for 11 hours and 40 minutes and he was in his crib for 11 hours and 42 minutes. He literally, like, I put him down and he was asleep within 2 minutes of me walking out of the room, and then he slept for 11 hours and 40 minutes until the morning. Like, can you imagine, like, especially if you are having like a lot of night wakings and a lot of night feedings, like, can you imagine putting your baby down, not hearing a peep out of them, and then them not waking up for almost 12 hours? Like if you would have told me that a couple weeks ago, I would have thought that was just like a dream. I would have never thought that was a possibility with like my kid. It was kind of hard, like as much as I wanted my sleep, it was kind of hard and a little bit sad, like not seeing him throughout the night anymore. I like kind of missed seeing him like a couple times throughout the night as much as I'm enjoying my sleep. That was kind of something to adjust to. So like I was saying, this isn't like, you know, 100% perfect and that as soon as it works, it will work forever and ever, amen. There will definitely be nights of regression. I've actually heard that for little boys, they actually are like kind of more fragile sleepers, so they can kind of have regressions here and there. And of course, when you travel and things like that, illnesses, all that kind of stuff, like that can definitely kind of cause some issues. But all you really have to do is just like jump back into this for 2 or 3 nights and they'll like be like, oh yeah, that's what we were doing, and they'll be right back at it. Of course, you do need to like purchase this program and like really dive into it and watch the videos and read the packet to like really get a full understanding of how to like set yourself up for success with this program. But the kind of like incremental controlled crying is kind of a game changer. It honestly works wonders. You honestly probably wouldn't think that something as simple as just like letting them cry for a little bit can change literally everything, but it can. So I don't know, I haven't noticed anything different about our relationship or our bond. Like he's honestly a happier baby as a result of us like letting him cry a little bit, because he's getting so much better sleep, and so he's in such a great mood. He's not constantly yawning, he's not constantly tired, he's not constantly rubbing his eyes. Like he's just a well-rested baby. We are well-rested parents. So kind of the whole dynamic of the house is so much better, and I definitely think this is 1000% something we are going to do with our next kid. Definitely like sooner, like basically as soon as possible. This still totally works whether you have like an older baby, a toddler, toddler, like you can still use this program and see success. It's just maybe a little harder to break the habits, but they can be broken. You can do it. And I also think like kind of along those lines, like when we have another baby and Cole is obviously older and he's like a toddler, it will be even more important than ever to kind of like get the new baby to be a good sleeper so that we can be sure that Cole's sleep isn't impacted, you know, for a very, very extended period of time. So these are definitely skills that are just like invaluable to know as a parent, to be able to implement, and just being able to see that what you're doing is working and it's benefiting you and your baby is just huge. It makes you feel so good as a parent. It's just been amazing. So I cannot recommend it enough. There's obviously different methods. We kind of like considered using the baby whisperer method. I have her whole book, Tracy Hoggs. She has like the pick up, put down method and the kind of like easy routine. And we tried that for like one day and realized it like just wasn't for us. It was not for Cole. He didn't want to be touched like that much, like being picked up and put down. It was way too stimulating for him. He was getting so worked up. Like that just wasn't a method that worked for Cole. I know that works for a lot of people, but that's kind of why I'm saying like some things just work for you and your baby and some things just don't. We just weren't really a big fan of how kind of intense that was, and that even though like you're in the room with your baby, there was a ton more crying. We just didn't find that to be super helpful. I read that whole book and there is a ton of good information in the baby whisperer book, and I think her method like has definitely credibility, but that didn't work for us. And I think what's also been huge is Taking Care of Babies does have like recommended wake windows, like basically between each nap for the morning and then the afternoon and then before bed based on the age of your baby. And once we started implementing her wake windows, also like everything changed. They are the perfect wake windows for Cole. He's just the right amount of tired. Like we've honestly been hitting the wake windows like on the money basically every single day because he like is just the right amount of tired at that time where he's kind of rubbing his eyes and he's getting sleepy. He falls asleep super easily. He sleeps for like a really long period of time. Like right now he's been napping for an hour and 20 minutes and we used to barely be able to get 30 minutes out of him. And now he sleeps for an hour and a half every morning, which is also a game changer for me, like knowing that I have a good chunk of time to get filming done, get editing done, get stuff done around the house. Just knowing that you have bigger chunks of naps, which is one of the biggest things that we have really needed, is huge. And like I said, we haven't even done nap training yet. We are going to be definitely starting the nap training. I don't even know how much we need to, and I honestly feel like it will probably only take like a day or two because he's already getting so good at naps just because he's getting so much better sleep at night. Like not only am I getting more sleep at night, but I'm getting more like time in the day to get things done or just like have some me time. Like all these things added together just give me like so much more peace, so much less stress, just like make me feel like I can manage my life so much better. Like my life is, it's literally a whole new life. My life is so much different and so much better just as a simple result of taking 7 days to just teach this kid how to sleep on his own. So obviously, like I said, this is not sponsored by Taking Care of Babies. I just cannot say enough good things about her program. The fact that I have so many tools now for sleep training, for night weaning, for nap, for wake windows, like everything has been working out so well. And specifically what we were having a hard time with was the eat, play, sleep because his naps were so short, but everything is just working out so perfectly that when he goes down after like his perfect wake window, he sleeps the perfect amount of time that when he wakes up, it's time to eat, and then he stays awake for the perfect amount of time, and he takes a nap for the perfect amount of time to be in the perfect window to eat when he wakes up. Like we're actually kind of able to stay more or less on like an eat, play, sleep kind of routine, even though I know eventually like that kind of goes out the window as they get older and their wake windows are longer and their naps are longer and all those things, which used to be an issue that we would have. Like he would have to take a nap and eat like at the same time, so either he would go down hungry and then not sleep long enough, or I'd have to feed him and then he'd nurse to sleep because like that was just kind of like the timing. Like he was super tired but he needed to eat, and then he would fall asleep nursing, so he wouldn't actually get a full feed. He'd fall asleep like 5 minutes into it. He wasn't eating enough. He was waking up hungry, so he was almost cluster feeding, like eating a little bit and then napping for half an hour and then eating again, and then he would eat at like 5 because he was super hungry, but then he had to like eat again at 6 because bedtime was coming and he wasn't hungry enough at 6. Like it was just a mess. But now everything just is like magically working out. Like his naps are at the right times for the right length and he's eating on like the right intervals. Everything's just working out so well. It's honestly like kind of mind-blowing, and I feel like probably even listening to this, it almost sounds like too good to be true. It is not. This is real life. We had like the worst sleeper probably. Like obviously he wasn't up all night long, but he was up a ton throughout the night for weeks and weeks and weeks, honestly like months straight. Like that was just our life. And in a week we literally got him sleeping through the night, weaned him off night feeding, and improved our naps. Our whole schedule, our whole routine, like our whole life is just literally 180 degrees better and different than it was a couple weeks ago. So I cannot recommend this program enough. I also cannot recommend this monitor enough. Y'all will love this. I will have everything linked down below, like everything y'all need. If you have any questions, of course, definitely let me know either in the comments or feel free to message me on Instagram. I always have my Instagram linked down below. You can definitely follow me. I have a whole highlight on sleep training in my stories if you guys want to watch that. I will link all the vlogs up as well. But I honestly am so active on stories and on Instagram. I'm always posting like what's going on, how his sleep is going, just like things throughout my day, food, all the things. So if y'all would like to follow me on Instagram, definitely do that. We can chat. All of that is just so much fun for me. So good luck to you guys if you are embarking on the sleep training journey. I think you're going to be so glad that you did, and I am just hoping and wishing for better sleep for all of you parents, babies, everybody on the other side of this. It is going to be so worth it, I promise. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you would like to subscribe, would love to have you. We have so much fun here, and until next time, I will see y'all in our next video. Bye guys. Also, fun fact, I just finished filming this and doing the thumbnail, and Cole woke up at an hour and like 24 minutes, and he just put himself back to sleep. He's like a pro at connecting those sleep cycles now. He knows how to put himself to sleep, how to self-soothe. That's my man. Cooley! Look at him. Hi, baby. Hi, Cooley. Hi, baby. Hi. Yeah. Hi. That's my favorite. Oh.